Here's the thing that any Pixar fan needs to know. The witch from Brave is the center of the entire Pixar universe. This is a true and indisputable fact that I, Jon Negroni, author of the Pixar Theory, am about to lay out before you. But how do we get there? Where do we start? For a long time, die-hard Pixar fans have suggested that every Pixar movie might exist in a shared universe. You may have heard of the Pixar Theory, which debuted in 2013 as a long-form essay that puts all of the Pixar pieces and movies together into one cohesive timeline. I'm here to share the new and improved Pixar Theory with you, or some might call it the Pixar Cinematic Universe Decoded, or PCU for short. Spoiler warning, as you can imagine, we are going to have to talk about several major plot points in several Pixar movies. You have been warned. The most important thing to remember about the PCU is that it's not just a string of movies with various Easter eggs and cameos. No, there's a grander story being told behind all of the Pixar movies, maybe even intentionally, if you adjust your tinfoil hat just right.
He knows something.
Granted, it's not as if Sully from Monsters, Inc. will ever walk into a bar and tell Andy from Toy Story about the Incredibles initiative, but the PCU definitely has its own sense of purpose, as you're about to find out. Let's begin at the beginning. 65 million years ago, to be sort of exact, a meteor is hurtling toward Earth and is bound to generate an extinction-level event. Only it doesn't. We see the meteor narrowly miss a dinosaur-filled planet, thus sparking the alternate universe that is the Pixar universe, as demonstrated in The Good Dinosaur. That's right, everything you know about Pixar can be explained as the cause of a split in the timeline, Barry Allen style. The movie tells us a story of Arlo millions of years later, and here we see a world where dinosaurs are the dominant species and humans are starting to challenge them. We also see that dinosaurs aren't exactly thriving, and the planet is dealing with cataclysmic storms and a dwindling dino population. Arlo's family can barely survive with their farm. Thunderclap's gang worships storms for providing them food.
I just want to take a moment and thank the storm for this meal.
For some reason, and some dinos even collect critters to help them survive. By the time Good Dinosaur ends, it's clear that dinos are on the way out and mammals are on the rise. There's some other connections we could get into, like how these strange creatures seem to be linked to Kevin from Up, and how that might be a precursor to magic based on a dropped plot point that Kevin's eggs kept Charles months young, thus explaining the fantastical side of the PCU, but we just don't have the time. Fast forward to 10th century Scotland, and we arrive at one of the most critical movies in the PCU because it introduces us to the origins of what makes inanimate objects come to life. We find a witch with strange powers who can turn doors into portals, generate self-awareness in her appliances, and even give a bird the ability to talk.
Who are you? Just a humble woodcarver.
The witch from Brave is a massively important character in the PCU, and she will absolutely come into play later, but for now, let's jump to the 1950s, where superheroes roam the Earth. These supers have incredible powers, pun intended, that are seemingly random. But as we'll find throughout the PCU, human potential is virtually unlimited. Our emotions can power machines, a young boy can obtain wolf-like senses, and a woodcarver can moonlight as a sorceress. In the PCU, the supers are actually humans who were experimented on by the government in order to become super spies, as evidenced by their espionage training that we see in The Incredibles, knowledge of military lingo, and how the government repeatedly takes full ownership of their role in the world.
We appreciate what you did in the old days, but those days are over.
Alas, the Incredibles eventually become the last of the supers, who are wiped out by Syndrome, and much of the world is forced to forget all about the super age, except through comic books and boxers, weirdly enough. But one other contribution from The Incredibles is the revelation of AI, as seen in the Omnidroid. And a strong case can be made that this advanced technology paved the way for a massive corporation to rise from Syndrome's ashes. That's right, by and large. A brand that is seen in multiple Pixar movies as the de facto manufacturer of just about everything. The link between AI and by and large is revealed in the Toy Story trilogy, kicking off in 1995 and ending in 2007 with Toy Story 3, where we see that Buzz Lightyear's batteries are made by and large. The theory goes that because the supers turned out to be more powerful than the Omnidroid, AI turns to fueling itself with human energy. Like how in Monsters, Inc., emotion is collected from children to power entire societies. By and large has taken over the entire world.
B is for by and large, your very best friend.
By harvesting love from humans that bring inanimate objects to life. As all of this goes on, we start to see the threads of a B-plot in the PCU, in the form of animals becoming more intelligent. In Finding Nemo, we see entire civilizations of creatures that are connected globally. Some fish like Dory are even able to read and speak other languages. In Finding Dory, it's hinted that this is because she was raised in captivity, so proximity to human emotion might have jump-started her intelligence. This is similar to how Remy from Ratatouille becomes the greatest chef in France as a result of his obsession with humans, to the point where his human mentor is a hallucination. It's his collaboration with Linguini and willingness to become more integrated with human society that we see Remy and his fellow rats flourish. And great advancements are being made for animals in movies like Up, where dogs are given collars that allow them to communicate with humans.
Impossible.
This reveals that animals are incredibly intelligent and capable of running the world as if they were humans. They can fly planes, cook meals, carry out military operations, and plenty more. In our main plot about humans being batteries, we get an even clearer glimpse at how and why human emotion is so powerful through Inside Out, a movie that reveals some emotions are more potent than others. In Monsters, Inc., we know that laughter and joy is more powerful in children than fear, and this is realized through Joy's dominance of Riley, a character who might have had an experience with the monster as a young child, just after the monsters became comedians instead of scares. Yes, Bing Bong, with all of his weird monster-like qualities, was an imaginary friend based off of a real monster that visited Riley at the same age as Boo from Monsters, Inc. So in a way, Bing Bong lives on. Anyway, we now move to when the PCU reaches its most dramatic change, the end of the world, for a while. According to Wall-E, by and large takes full control of the planet, even its governments, which leads to overpopulation and pollution. So in 2105, by and large puts all humans on executive starliners that are powered by human energy to the point of an infinite loop. Their plan is to clean up the Earth in 5 years by incinerating all of the garbage collected by various Wall-E units. And they accomplish just that, sort of. See, we know that in 2110, exactly 5 years later, by and large realizes that incinerating all of this garbage has led to enormous toxicity in the air, so they have to officially evacuate.
Do not return to Earth. Repeat, do not return to Earth.
All but a few cities, like the one we see in Wall-E, are technically clean. For the next 700 years, humans are gone, and even animals are hard to find for a while, but rising up to take their place are the cars. These machines, like the toys in Toy Story, come to life and carry on. But without humans around, they need a purpose again, so they take on the personalities of their previous owners and try to recreate the human experience for themselves. This works for a while, but without actual human energy, they eventually die out from a lack of resources, as alluded to in Cars 2 with the oil crisis. And Cars 3 confirms that in a strange way, cars do age and pass on. You know, that kids movie. Sometime later, the actual events of Wall-E take place, and we learn that the Earth has been livable for a while.
Otto, things have changed. We've got to go back.
But the Starliners have been actively choosing not to return. But with Eve's help, Wall-E manages to save the Axiom and return humans to their home planet, and the clock is reset. We see that birds, fish, and insects are back in action. But there's reason to believe that insects are farther along than most, as we see that a cockroach has survived as Wall-E's friend. For this reason, it seems bugs have a more evolved role in this new world as we see in A Bug's Life. Unlike the other Pixar movies with animals, the insects have entire cities, circuses, and Flick is even an inventor of advanced machinery that benefits their society. Now, what happens next isn't 100% clear, but it isn't pretty. We see the signs of an animal takeover. Humans have been gone too long, they've gotten soft, while animals have progressed in their absence. They eventually take over the Earth in full and start their own monster world. But they run into the same problem the Cars did. Without humans, where do they get their energy? To prevent another apocalypse or crisis similar to the Good Dinosaur, the monsters use their advanced technology to travel back in time through doors. This way, they can harvest the energy of children, starting in 1313 with the invention of Monsters University. To prevent problems with messing up the timeline, they keep the time travel a secret, and instead tell monsters that the human world is incredibly toxic. Now, you might think that we've reached the end of the PCU, but there's still one last hanging thread. Boo from Monsters, Inc. This is a character who walked into the monster world as a child and built a relationship with Sully, who would eventually have to stop visiting her. But his decision to come back at all will be enough to fuel Boo's search for him later. Remembering the power of the doors, Boo goes on a quest to figure out how she can travel in time herself and will ultimately become the witch from Brave. That might sound like a wild guess, but there's too much evidence to support it. In the witch's workshop, we see a carving of Sully. We know that the witch is obsessed with bears, and that's one of the last things that she associated with Sully. And her workshop is filled with references to other points in time. There's a Pizza Planet truck, a Renaissance painting, too many things to count. She even says that she's going to a Wickerman festival in her cauldron.
I'm off to the Wickerman Festival in Stornoway.
Which wasn't even invented until 2001 when Monsters, Inc. came out. Look it up. And of course, we know that she uses doors in Brave, like how they're used in Monsters, Inc. So what is the end game of the PCU? What is this all leading toward? Well, the monster world still faces a huge problem. Eventually, they will run out of children to harvest energy from because the Earth will be evacuated all over again. The witch is the only person we've seen in the PCU with the power to save everyone because she can control time and see what happens before it happens. So I guess in this case, she's the one who'll have to find Mr. Incredible and tell him all about the Sully Initiative. And that, for now, is the Pixar Cinematic Universe. Until Coco, Incredibles 2, and Toy Story 4 come out in the next few years, we'll just have to wait and see what other secrets are lurking in our favorite Pixar movies. If you're itching for more or are confused by half of what just happened, be sure to check out the full Pixar Theory book, which covers all the details, Easter eggs, and theories we didn't have time to mention in this video, including answers to who is Syndrome really working for? How does Andy know Carl and Ellie? What's the deal with those Pizza Planet trucks? And that tree that shows up all the time? And these two trailers? And a whole lot more.
Click here for more awesome Screen Junkies news and click the logo to subscribe.